Hi, come on in.
And join in. It's the Very Merry Life. Hi, I'm Mary Hendricks, and you might know me as that relatable AF Mama over on Instagram who hopefully feels like an old friend at this point. And if not, it won't be long till it feels that way as we get raw, unfiltered, and very unapologetic in all things motherhood, marriage, sex, and more. From moments worth savoring to moments worth surviving, get ready to leave feeling seen and supported. You have a friend here now, so hey, take a seat. What's going on? All right. Hi, guys. Hi, Rachel.
No.
Hello. All right. So today's episode, I'm so excited. I have my friend Rachael here. Rachael Rooney. What's your full Instagram handle?
Rachel Rue and her crew.
There you go. Okay. I knew I was getting it. There we go. So what's your last name?
Moyer.
Okay. So where's the Rue? Is that a nickname?
No, we were just trying to think of a cute name when I started this page in December 2021, and my husband sent me that, and I'm like, I'll go with it. So
all right, I like it.
Just kind of went with it.
Awesome. Well, so I have Rachael here, and Rachael and I got connected. I think you started following me, and it was probably just a DM that I answered of some sort, and we were following. And at that point, I don't think you had many followers. I forget how many you had. I want to say
whenever we started talking, I probably only had about 5,000 to 6,000. That was in the summer.
Yeah,
last summer, about 5,000 followers. Yeah,
yeah. And Rachael was so kind. Where at the time, my Haley was only 5 months old, and we had an outlet Smart Sock, and it broke. And it was my original one that I bought 4 years ago when Cassidy was born, and I love that thing. If you're not familiar with what it is, it's like a smart sock that monitors their pulse ox and their heart rate and basically just gives you a little peace of mind. And I love that thing. And it broke while we were on vacation. And I was so devastated because they don't make them the same way anymore. So Rachael had a little bit of an older one, and she offered to send it to me. And this is someone I've never met in person. And she was so kind to just, gift this thing to me. And we still use it at night because it still fits her foot. So that is how we got connected. And now Rachael is here, and I wanted her to chat because your account has blown the hell up. It is crazy. You're at what? 166?
No, I'm at 169. Yeah.
So you're going to hit 2. I guarantee. Give it 2 more weeks. You're going to hit 200K.
Crazy.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it goes to show Instagram, if you're in this whole thing to get out there, it literally takes one reel sometimes. And then I think it's up to the Instagram gods mostly.
Yes,
but
I agree with you. It's good content and some luck. You know what I mean? We don't have any control over what gets sent out on Instagram. And I say that all the time to people that message me about it because we had no anticipation what was going to go down. I posted, it was the Disney Reels for me, in particular, the first one that I posted January 8th. And at that point, I had 15 or 16,000 followers. And then 2.5 months later, I'm where I'm at now. So it's just been a wild ride. So
yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I love it. Well, so I wanted Rachael to come on. I'm going to have you introduce yourself in a second, but I wanted to chat today because, you hear that Rachel's hit, she's hitting huge numbers with following and things like that. And there is a world of people that want to do what you're doing and want to do what I'm doing and things like that. And I know for myself, I know you could probably even say from the other side before this all happened and the growth happened, we see these people on Instagram and we it's I don't know, there's something about it's just so sparkly. Their life is so sparkly and it looks so amazing to be able to share your life and it looks so fun. And it is, but there's a lot of crap that comes to it too. And that's what I want Rachael to come on and talk about because I think that's the one side that not a lot of people know. And I know when you started hitting big numbers, I know you reached out to me and you were like, holy crap, I didn't know that this side existed. So before we do that, you introduce yourself and then we'll get into it.
Okay. So hello, I'm Rachael. So I started my account in December of 2021 and I was after I had my 4th daughter, Claire, we decided that it was in my best interest to stay home and just with all of their growing needs. And I was feeling alone and lost in motherhood. So I thought that I wanted to create a space that I wish that I had back when I was struggling, especially after my second. So I started in December of 2021 and, just started creating trendy reels with my own spin on with the closed caption, which is what a lot of accounts do. And a couple caught fire. And then fast forward to this year in particular, in January, we created, the dad's training for Disney, which I do want to be clear, I put it in my caption, but that I was inspired by someone else that had done something similar with Disney. I feel like most things, unless it's like a home video, have been done on Instagram. And I think that it's like it's hard because there's definitely a line where you definitely, like, I always am very cautious that I want to make sure to give credit where credit's due. We didn't anticipate it to blow up. Someone, it was actually my sister-in-law had sent me, she's like, they know that I love Disney and they said, you should do this. So we created it and did it. Now each individual scenario was based on things that we personally experienced at Disney. So that's where I made it like a little bit of my own spin where the original and like what they did was different than mine in that way. And it is at over 50 million views right now.
That's crazy.
So that is what has exploded my page. We made a couple more that have all hit 1 million or higher. Yeah. So that is what's exploded my page. And it's been, like you said, I messaged you because it's been a lot of tough moments in addition to what people are probably seeing from the outside. Like, oh, she's so lucky. Look at her account growing. I'm so envious of that. And there are it's been actually kind of like a hard 2 months in a lot of ways too. So.
Oh yeah. Well, I can even say that. Like I see your numbers growing and I'm like, oh, what the hell sometimes? Cause we pull weight. I mean, people are on here busting their ass sometimes and you see it and you really realize like there isn't rhyme and reason. I do think there is. Like you did put in the work. You have a great account. You're putting in the time and effort and it comes back. So you have to do that. So it's not just like, it's just sheer luck. It does come with work and consistency and you are doing that. And that's important because someone hitting that follow button, that's a big thing. Like that's not an easy thing to get, especially on Instagram. TikTok, it's a little bit easier. Instagram, I feel like getting that follow is something you have to work at consistently. And it's just, it goes to show like that type of thing. But the dark side of it is, you are caught up in that. Like you do get caught up in the comparison game. That's like one side of the dark side. But also now you're in front of so many people that you like didn't even intend on. I know every time I've ever gone like a reel's ever gone viral for me or anytime I ever got big jumps in my account. I know when I think it was December of 2021 when I was pregnant with Haley that my account really took a turn from like, I think it might have been at 20. I think it might have been, no, not even. I think I was at like 5 and I jumped to like 50K. And it was a big like jump for me where I didn't expect it because it happened in such a short window where I had all these influx of opinions, all these influx of messages. And it got to be like so much. And I hesitated getting on stories because I was like, I've been talking to the same people for so long, like a small little group, but now my story views jumped drastically. And I'm like, you get stage fright a little bit because you're like, what are these people going to think of me? What are they going to respond to me as? Everything.
We'll be back after a quick break. Eye-Opening Moments podcast are real-life stories of adversity, encounters, and perspectives. They are moments that can lift your spirits, give you some food for thought, or move you. For the introspective mind that likes to reflect, discover, and find solutions or meaning in a complex life, listen to Eye-Opening Moments podcasts.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely been hard. I know that, we laughed about it, but like somebody went on one of my reels and said that I looked like a horse. Like people are just literally mean. And I don't know why they feel the need to like comment those things. I mean, at that point, that was so ridiculous that I laughed it off. But there are some comments that do like make you think. And if you're having a bad day and then you start seeing those comments, it can really it's affected my mood and it's affected sometimes my, like how I can act around the girls. And so when that happens, I do try to put my phone away or I'll tell my husband that I'm frustrated and he's a big support. I know that I crack jokes about him all the time, but I'm very blessed to have my husband. He's totally wonderful and I couldn't do this space without him.
Well, you wouldn't be able to crack. That's what people I love, because whenever like you do ones, like when you do crack jokes about like reels, one, they're not mean. They're just
No,
like a average thing. That's why they're doing well. It's because we
all men are the same.
relate to it. Yeah. But whenever I do stuff that like pokes fun at Kev or any of that, like it's stuff that's done because he's fully aware of it, and it's with his permission.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm putting him out there on blast. There's a difference, and you can tell
Yeah.
when that's happening, when someone's like getting on being like, I hate my husband. Like it's not that. Like it's a for me, it actually shows like a good relationship, like a solid
Yeah.
relationship when I see that.
Yeah, and people will be like, "You just wait till he leaves you. He's gonna, yeah, just wait, and he'll divorce you 5 years down the road." Like, I made a reel where I was like, it was a joke about it's a trending audio right now, and it's a joke about smiling more.
Yeah.
And it was literally a joke. Like, my husband doesn't tell me that. I just thought it was hilarious. So I was going around my house and just like, mopping the floor, smiling, cutting grapes, smiling.
It's a trend. I've seen that one done before. It's a trend. Yeah.
Oh, it's a trend. It's absolutely a trend. And it has over 20 million views, and people have been awful.
Horrendous. Yeah.
Like, they're like, "Oh, I would do anything just to be in your position and home with your kids, and you should be grateful." Like, I never said I wasn't grateful. You know what I mean? Like, it's a joke. Like, so I usually just stay out of the comment sections when that happens, just because anytime something goes viral, the trolls are going to come in,
Oh yeah. So. Yeah. No. Well, that's like the one side. And I say that to people because like like I said, you get, I'm sure you have accounts that follow you of all different sizes and things like that. And I do too. And I get, people messaging me saying like for advice and help. And I'm happy to give advice anytime. Like you message me and I'm happy to do that. But I always just like, when I hear girls get caught up in saying like, I want to quit because my numbers aren't growing, and I want to quit because of so-and-so, and it's more engagement wise, like they're noticing like engagement isn't there. I get it. Like when shit performs really poorly, it bothers me to no end, because I'm like, what the heck? And you almost,
I think people don't realize the amount of time that goes into creating reels, even if they're quick trending audios. You it's time away from your family, time away from other things that you should be doing. So it bothers me too.
Yeah. And it's just, and it's that. And then you just, you do take it as like a popularity thing. It does get to your head a little bit, especially when you have things that perform well. And then when you have something that tanks, you're like, oh, okay, so maybe I am a certain way, or maybe a lot. Like, it's silly how social media can affect you in that way. Mm-hmm. But I always tell people, I'm like, please try not to get caught up in that, because on the flip side, you can hear about all the garbage that comes. And there are times where I say to Kev, like, I'm going to give myself to this time frame to do this, and then I am done. Like, because sometimes it's so draining where you're like, I don't know what the end of the road is for me, but sometimes it's intimidating, because once you get started, you're like, you can't really stop. Sometimes.
Well, and there's like a level of pressure too that I feel now that I never felt before. I'm just waiting for the dust to settle, because I do believe that it's going to eventually settle. And then how am I going to handle that? Like when the growth stops or the engagement stops, and it's hard, you know what I mean? Because I'm used to a certain thing now. And there's definitely been like, I'm very proud of what I've built. I've put in a lot of time, but so have a lot of other creators that I'm friends with that aren't getting the same luck, so to speak. So then it makes me feel guilty on that end. You know what I mean? And all I want is for their stuff to perform just as well, because it's every bit as good as mine. You know what I mean? So I feel, part of me feels a little undeserving of it as well. And, just some opportunities that have been knocking at my door because of one reel, which is literally all it takes. Because I feel that because Instagram sees the engagement on that reel, they're pushing out my other stuff even from months ago. I'm noticing.
Oh yeah. Well, I've even noticed that if I get one good one, the next ones, like the 6 ones that follow, are typically going to be good. And again, if you hit another high number, then it keeps continuing where they just get pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed.
Yeah.
And then
someone was messaging me the other day, and they were like, because my growth the last week has been insane. Like I hit 150 on Saturday, and I'm almost at 170 5 days later. Like it's complete insanity. I've never experienced this kind of growth, like within this last week. And I said to my friend, like, I don't even know what's like driving it, because my last several reels, like they didn't do bad.
Yeah.
But they didn't hit like the million mark, which is usually where you start seeing growth.
Yeah.
So at this point, I think that Instagram's just pushing out my stuff. And again, that's just lucky. That's just a little bit of luck. You know what I mean?
Yeah. 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 Instagram it's the gods of Instagram. It's no rhyme and reason, and you do what you can. Like, you kind of just have a plan. I always say, like, you should have a plan for your feed, or consistency. Like, you're very consistent. You post pretty much daily. Do you post twice a day?
I do once a day.
Okay.
But my issue now is that it's no secret that I struggle with anxiety. I do talk about that in my stories, but my like a lot of the reason why people come to my page is to laugh. So now I'm struggling where, well, should I start sharing occasionally like things that are about my experience with like postpartum anxiety and postpartum depression? Because when that all happened, I felt very, very alone, and it would have been very beneficial to see an account that went through something that I was going through, and I wouldn't have maybe felt that way. You know what I mean? So now I struggle, like, do I post that, or are people going to not like that and leave me? So it's hard. You question yourself daily.
Yeah. I think you share it. I mean, that's the biggest thing. You got to share like it's your page. It's a reflection of you. I went through that for a little bit, because especially when you found yourself on when you build your founding on funny, it gets hard, because you know me, like, I like to go back and forth. Like I had to change my bio, even where I was like, cause I said to Kev a few days ago, I was like, or a few weeks ago, I said, I don't do just funny. And I had someone once comment like something nasty and was like, go back to the funny stuff, because they were pissed about what I had said about something more encouraging about stay-at-home moms. Yeah. And that kind of sat with me a little bit, because I was like, I can do funny. Trust me, I can do funny. But thanks. But I love encouragement. Like, I've always been that type of person. Like, I love encouraging others. I love giving pep talks to others. I like just making people feel good. And there's ways to do that aside from just laughing. And I feel like that's such a big thing that people forget, is like, you can make people feel really good and lighthearted outside of just humor. So I would totally encourage you to do that, because it's just.
Well, and on another note, like your reels, like there was one yesterday, 2 days ago maybe, and I was having an off day. Like, it was just like a rough day. It actually made me cry, because it was just, so you really help a lot of people. And even if I could help one person not feel alone. So I have decided, I actually did a poll, and most people were like, yes, please share. I mean, I went and talked about, I don't want to get off on a tangent, but I talked about my opinions on youth sports, because it was affecting my kids and my family. And it got a lot of people agreed, and it made me actually feel less alone. So I might have made other people feel that way, but it made me feel that way as well. You know what I mean? So I am going to kind of sprinkle that in my content, but there is a certain level of pressure that you feel whenever you reach the numbers that I've had over the last 2.5 months. You know what I mean? And it's been overwhelming for sure. Yeah. I feel a little bit like almost like paralyzed by it. You know, that's just how I'm feeling personally. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what people have to hear, because it's just, do you feel like you can take a day off?
No. And then I also like am struggling where I am cautious. Like, I don't mind my kids being on my page, but I'm cautious as to how I put them on my page. And I don't want, like, I would never share a moment where they were struggling. Like, I just don't feel like that's my moment. First of all, I don't want a phone out when I'm helping them with tough feelings.
Yeah,
like,
agreed.
My phone out to like, but so I'm careful with how I put them on. But it's like when I'm with them and they're doing something, I'm like, you know, you question, well, am I doing this? do I have my phone out so I can have content, or do I have my phone out because I want to like remember this moment? You know what I mean? And so I've taken a step back where, because I don't really put them in a lot of my content just because of today's world, and it just concerns me. But I don't feel like I can take a day off, and I don't feel like I can just put my phone down and be with my family. And that's something I need to work on, because I need that. My kids need that. My husband needs that, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's hard. It's hard finding that balance. Even I do that, because it's just, you know, you take a day off, you get kicked for it. Instagram will kick you a little bit for it. I talked about that. I talked about that with Libby from Diary of an Honest Mom when she was on. because she has a huge following, and she had said that, she said, I have to have someone that posts for me if I take time away, and I have to pre-plan stuff. And that's even something that's worth checking out. And that's what I try and do, is just have drafts and just know that this is what's going out each day. I'm actually my stress right now is I'm running out of content because I just haven't filmed anything,
Yeah.
and I'm tired. I'm tired of finding stuff almost where you
It
just
takes time to do that too, scrolling through and kind of finding the trending audios or getting your own idea with it. It takes a lot of time to do that. Then you have to make the content. So I don't think people realize what goes in on the back end unless you're a creator, and then you do see it. But I'll go places I'm not being recognized. I'm not but if I go in my daughter's school, I've had people that I'm not really super familiar with come up and be like, "Oh, I love your page."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I just don't think that some people realize the amount that goes into it. I always love when people come up and say, even people I know, they come up and say they love my page, and that makes me really happy. But it's a lot of time. When my kids are in school, I spend all of that time either for content or trying to keep up with my engagement or responding to my DMs. It's a lot.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah. Yeah. There's definitely a side of it that's it's just, it's something that I always just encourage everyone, especially if you're listening to this and you're hoping to get into this, don't let this deter you. By all means, it's one of those things that you have to know what you're stepping into, because it's a job. I mean, if it turns into a job, it's a job, but it really is a job beyond a 9 to 5 of any of that stuff. And obviously we've built this into our lives where we're moms and we do that stuff. We're able to do, the family stuff. But at the same time, I always have my phone with me, and I can't go MIA for long periods of time because I need to keep up with messages. And if you don't keep up with messages, then people think you're ignoring them. And if they think you're ignoring them, then they're going to unfollow you, or they're not going to engage on your stuff, and they're not going to see your stories, which then hits you. There's just a whole trickle of things where, it's just, it's a lot. It's a lot. It's a constant. I mean, at night I sit on the couch with Kevin, we watch something, and I'm scrolling. I'm scrolling and scrolling and scrolling just to find stuff and pin stuff and write ideas in my phone and go from there. But it's just,
yeah, I do the same thing. And also even on vacation now, like you said, I always have drafts. And then when we went away a couple weeks ago, and there were a couple easy trends going on that we filmed. They actually were quick ones. So I was able to just quickly film them. But you're even kind of thinking about it when you're on vacation. It's just hard to kind of take a step back. And we're going to be surprising, my kids won't see this, so I can say it, but we're going to be surprising our 2 older girls. We're waking them up and taking them to Universal for 5 days.
Oh, fun. Yeah.
And I told my husband, I want to just be present, but I can't not be around for 5 days. You know what I mean? I get up, I usually post my reel earlier than I normally would have. So at least something's posted. Yeah. But this is just the mindset where there's just no off time. You know what I mean? And that can be difficult.
Yeah.
So,
well, and that's why I would encourage you, because I think the one thing that has helped me recently is showing more of the real side. That's why I would encourage you to share more of your real story and what's going on, only because when I take off, this past 2 weeks, we've been sick with the freaking plague. I wasn't on as much because people knew. And I feel your audience gets to know you well enough where they're they respect that. They know that you're a mom. So I almost they respect my time away because they're she's being a mom. She's not here for us. So I feel I have a little bit more wiggle room with that because my audience understands. You build that understanding in them that you're not just, just someone that can show up willy-nilly, but you have responsibilities because you're a parent, and that's what essentially they should be following you for, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it totally makes sense. And whenever I talk about when I do question boxes, and then I'll feel bad because I can't ever get to everybody's question because you get flooded with questions.
Yep.
So I did one yesterday. I try to do them once a week, but I get more DMs when I start talking about my experiences struggling, because I think that it just relates to a lot of moms, and I think that people look at my life from what I post and just assume that it's just perfect. And she has this like White House. I get talked about my White House all the time. I promise you there's tons of color in my house. It's just where I post. It's, but I think that they look at that and that's just not the case. You know what I mean? I struggle daily with anxiety. It can be debilitating at times. And I think people like to see that side because I get more DMs when I talk about that stuff than when I don't. So
yeah, well, I mean, I agree because I even like seeing that stuff because I mean, Instagram still has the aesthetic. TikTok does not. Like my page is very TikTok-y. Like because I've gotten more into TikTok and I like TikTok because I can get on without having to worry about what the state of my house looks like. I can get on and not have to worry about what the aesthetic is going to look like because it doesn't matter. And so my page has slowly trickled into that. My page wasn't at one point, like I really focused on like what the cover photo was going to be and what the color scheme was going to be. And I used to put it in a folder in my phone. I created an album because you can arrange the squares of your photos and make sure that they all were cohesive. And I would do that. And I don't anymore. I'm just like, whatever screen it freezes on, it is. And it's been nice, but I think that's because like I think we're starting to trickle into that authenticity, raw realness on Instagram. I think that's slowly starting to seep in. And I think that's what people need. Like they need that refreshment because especially with a reel is a 15-second thing. Reel is however long, 15-second thing. That's why I like stories so much because it's like that's the real bread and butter of my life. Like Reel hopefully hooked you in, come to my stories, see who I actually am and see that like this is the real deal shit show.
I like stories for that reason as well. Like I said, I with my kids, especially like the young ones that really have no say, my older girls love to do reels and they love to perform. Like my oldest asked me for a YouTube channel. Like
fun.
So like I don't mind, I always ask them, hey, do you want to do this with mommy? And I always give them a say, but like the younger kids can't speak up for themselves yet. So I'm just like careful how I share them. You know what I mean? People have been respectful of that. Like I'm never asked to like show pictures or whatever. I know that Lindsay Girk had been dealing with that where people were like demanding that that she shows them. She discussed it in her stories. And I was like, she was really taken back by it. So she actually has stopped showing her kids' faces for that reason. Because her kids are younger. As you know, I mean, she's just ginormous. You know what I mean? She's a huge creator. So that really kind of resonated with me too when she said that. And then somebody a couple weeks ago impersonated my account and used pictures. Like I very rarely post actual photos of the kids, but if we get family photos done and I love them, I'll share, them in the carousel. And people like took that and then impersonated my account and used my kids' pictures, which is just another level of gross. And that bothered me. Like it bothered me. If it had been me.
Well, it should. That would bother me. Someone did that with the Facebook page. They did that. They took all my pictures and like re-impersonated me on Facebook and it grossed me out. And I recently, I don't know if you follow her, Lex Fitzgerald. And I might actually have her on my podcast, but she just recently put out a podcast on how she's been stalked for 4 years on social media. She has a large following on YouTube, but also has like 110,000 followers on Instagram. And she like this 2-part podcast. I listened to it. I finished it yesterday. I am like still shaken by what she's gone through to a point where like it gets wild. Like it makes you really second guess sharing your life on social media and how much you let go, like how much information you share. It gets a little terrifying sometimes because I've even thought about it. Like I'm starting to dwindle back on how much the kids are shown. Like my older kids actually aren't shown very much. Like people probably think if they're fresh to my page, probably think I just have Haley if they see my reels because I don't share the 2 other kids as much because they don't want to be. They're at an age where they're like, I don't want to be on camera. So I'm like, okay, well, you don't have to be. I'm not going to force this on you. I don't want it to be unpleasant. Haley just is always on my hip. So I'm like, whatever. But even that, I'm like, I'm going to start kind of scaling back what you see of them. Like, I'm always pretty careful about like what they do see. Like, I'm going to make sure that hopefully they have like clothes on and
Right.
pants on.
Well,
But
and like how you share them, and that's how I share them. I do on stories, and they go away in 24 hours. And I'm
yeah,
careful about what I highlight. Like if I, you know, where I in the highlights, like I don't really share, like I don't highlight things with them in it a lot,
yeah,
just because of today's world, you know. And you have to be cautious. And I have a public page where, and on the
yeah,
flip side, if I get a picture of like my 4-year-old Caroline with her little friend, we went to a birthday party, and I always ask, are you okay if I post this? Because you have to be respectful of other parents as well. You know what I mean?
oh
Like
yeah,
the story, and
yeah,
she was fine with it, so I shared it, you know, with Caroline and her little friend. But you know, I have to kind of be cautious of that. Whereas before, I never was. You know what I
yeah.
mean? You have a birthday party, and I want to share it. Like I have to make sure all the parents are okay with it, and if they don't, I'll put like a thing over the kid's face. You know?
Yeah, and that's a whole nother dynamic because I had to
Yes.
do that with even sending your kids to school. I had to with sending my kids to school, I had to sign, you know, the waivers because they have like image release forms and
Yes.
like whatever stuff. And I had to write on there because they didn't have like a section that I had to write. It's like, please, like I didn't want her name listed and I don't want any photos of Cassidy listed anywhere on her school site.
Yeah.
And I felt bad because I'm like, I hate that I have to do that. Like,
Yeah.
to her, but I'm like, I don't want anyone to be able to Google her name and
Yeah.
find out where she's at. So, and I had to write on there being like, I have a social media presence. Like, I just, for safety reasons, I cannot have her listed anywhere.
Well, when we
And I've
had
had to do that with
discussed,
Spencer.
oh no, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. You go.
I was just going to say, like, I was talking with a friend last night, and she was saying with the new verification, which the only reason I'm interested in that is for extra protection. So no one can like hack into my account and like take it from me. It provides a little bit of extra, but you have to put your last name to get that.
Yeah.
And
okay.
I don't have that on my page. So that I was talking to my husband last night, and I'm like, I don't know. I mean, if push comes to shove, like I likely would do it because my last name's generic and there's like another Rachael Moyer in my area even.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that just makes it just made me like, I'm kind of careful with like, you can't, when people ask where I live, I'll be like, I live in central Pennsylvania. I don't give the city and state because I don't want people to be able to find us. And that's crazy to think like that, but that's just the negatives of social media and having a bigger following where people might be interested in finding you. Does that make sense?
Well, they are. Like I said, that Lex Fitzgerald podcast, that's exactly what they did. They found exactly which Airbnbs she would be staying at. And they sent CPS to our house multiple times. It was awful.
That is awful.
Someone's crying. I have a babysitter here, but I have Spencer is home from school and he's freaking out. So I told him he could sit on the couch over there. But, Lord have mercy. Oh, well, we've been talking for 40 minutes, kind of, minus the interruption of Spencer. But I think overall, what do you say for advice with someone that wants to enter this game?
So I would just say, like, my biggest piece of advice is just show up as you are, be consistent. And I always say, like, you know, I always tell people like their time will come. Like, I believe my time is like right now. That's going to eventually pass. And I feel like, you know, everyone will get their moment. I believe that. And just to show up authentically and people will like that. You know what I mean? My biggest piece of advice is to just be consistent. You know what I mean? I've showed up every day for the last, 15 months, you know, posted every single day almost. And I think that's where, like I said, I got a little bit of luck and now I'm where I'm at. So,
yeah. Well, and I always say too, like my advice with that, and I was like, what's your end goal? Like I always say that to people who want to grow, like, why? Like, what's your why? Because if it's solely financial, there's a lot that comes with that financial stuff because there's going to be people that are going to be beating you down just so you can earn a paycheck. And sometimes it doesn't feel worth it. And I know for me, like the financial portion of Instagram has been wonderful. And I'm sure you're seeing that. It's great. But at some point that's probably going to stop.
I've actually never made $1. I'm just recently getting into that. I think people just assume that I'm making all this money. I have yet to make $1 on Instagram.
Okay.
Now people are interested just because they can see. So I have brands reaching out now, which again, I'm sure I'll learn is just a whole other thing. But yeah, I mean, that's great. Like, what's your end goal? Because I don't know.
What's your end goal? Yeah, because it's like, I always say, just have fun. Like, have fun. Make content that you like creating. And if the end goal is because if you don't have fun creating now when you're not making anything, you're certainly not going to have fun the moment you are growing and earning money, because that money comes at a cost. And that cost is mental health a lot of the time. Sometimes it sucks a ton. And I know that for me is like the big thing, because like we said, we can't really stop. Like I can't take a day off because if I do, then I have brands. Like I have engagement that I have to keep up with because of brands. I have to do that so the brands can know that who they're working with is worth it type of thing. And it's just it's hard. I have to keep showing up, because if not, then I get hurt. Financially, business wise. So
hi, Spencer.
Say hi.
Hi.
Hi, buddy.
If you're not, well, I'll put this up on YouTube, but if you're not watching, Spencer is through a fit upstairs. I have a babysitter, and he's currently eating a popsicle at 10:45 because that is motherhood, and it's making him not cry. So
Whatever works.
But anyway, I'm going to put Rachel's information in the show notes. That way you guys can follow her. She is totally worth a follow. She is the sweetest person, sweetest heart. Just a great mom to follow, and very funny. And her content, like I said, it's lighthearted, but it's mom stuff. It's stuff that we all can relate on. And that's, what we want. I think, when the village feels lost, like that's why social media has become a big thing for us. It's like we are trying to find it. So.
Yes. So thank you so much for having me.
No problem. Thanks, Rachel.
Another episode down and way more to go. But thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you would like to help support this podcast, I would love for you to subscribe. I'd love for you to share it with others and post about it on your own social media, or leave a rating and review. I cannot tell you how helpful and how appreciated those things are for me. Of course, to catch all the latest from me, you can follow me over on Instagram at The Very Merry Life, over on TikTok, The Very Merry Life. And even if you wanted to check out my monthly newsletter, you can do so by subscribing over at theverymerrylife.com. I'll see you next week. Stay tuned for more honest, raw, real chit chat. I have some amazing moms lined up coming on, and shit's going to get fun. So buckle up, Buttercup. It's going to be good.